In 1995, a bus filled with 11 bright-eyed choir students from Sterling High School vanished into thin air on a secluded Ohio highway, leaving behind nothing but a ghostly silence and unanswered questions. 2 decades passed, and memories faded until a lone hiker stumbled upon a decayed Sterling High choir t-shirt buried deep within an eerie forest. Suddenly, a forgotten tragedy reignited into a chilling mystery, drawing investigators into a hidden world of shadows, secrets, and unimaginable truths. Little did anyone realize, the students hadn't simply disappeared. They'd been caught in the sinister grip of a powerful cult, where innocence was erased, identities were lost, and survival meant surrendering everything they'd ever known. In the small, sleepy town of Sterling, Ohio, life moved at a leisurely pace. It was the kind of community where neighbors knew each other's routines, families gathered at the annual county fair, and high school events were cherished milestones. For the talented choir students of Sterling High School, one event surpassed them all: the honor of performing at the national concert in Washington, D.C. It was their chance to shine, to break free momentarily from the quiet monotony of their hometown. Led by the enthusiastic and hopeful Ella Thompson, the choir had poured their hearts into endless rehearsals, dreaming of recognition and new beginnings. Among them was Brian B.J. Jenkins, whose humor lightened even the heaviest moods, and Carla Matthews, a gifted but reserved singer quietly envisioning a future filled with music. As their bus pulled away from the exhilaration of a flawless performance, filled with chatter and laughter about dreams becoming reality, nobody anticipated that their lives were about to change irrevocably. Hours later, on a secluded, fog-shrouded highway, their journey took an inexplicable, ominous turn. Without warning, the bus swerved off the road into the shadowed depths of a nearby forest. Students jolted awake, eyes wide with confusion, fear gripping their chests. Before they could understand or react, cloaked figures swiftly surrounded the vehicle. Silent, coordinated, and methodical, these strangers forced open the doors and demanded the students' exit. Frozen by shock, there was no time to resist or even to scream. The choir members and their chaperones raised trembling hands in submission, herded quickly into waiting vehicles hidden along the roadside. Within moments, the bus stood empty, and abandoned keys still dangling in the ignition. Silence once more, descending upon the desolate stretch of road. As night enveloped the forest, the bus, now hauntingly vacant, became the sole testament to the unimaginable event that had unfolded. A busload of promising young lives vanished without a trace, leaving only echoes of their vanished dreams behind. When the bus failed to return to Sterling High School on schedule, initial confusion rapidly escalated to alarm. Families gathered anxiously, making frantic calls that remained unanswered. Local authorities were soon alerted, launching an intensive search that swiftly captured national attention. The deserted bus was quickly found, a chilling sight, standing eerily silent among dense trees. But aside from its unsettling emptiness, there were no clues, no footprints, no personal belongings, not even the slightest evidence of struggle. Authorities combed every inch of forest and surrounding roadways, employing every available resource from local police to FBI investigators. Despite their exhaustive efforts, each search yielded nothing more than mounting frustration and deepening mystery. Theories multiplied rapidly, each more desperate and speculative than the last kidnapping, voluntary disappearance, tragic accident. Yet, without concrete evidence, authorities grappled helplessly in darkness. Families, paralyzed by fear and despair, clung desperately to any faint hope, their lives suspended in torturous limbo. Media coverage surged initially, casting an intense spotlight on Sterling's tragedy, but soon faded as unanswered questions piled up and leads ran cold. Reported sightings surfaced occasionally, igniting fleeting sparks of optimism that inevitably dimmed under scrutiny. As months passed, the once fervent investigation lost momentum, quietly slipping into a cold case. Sterling High School, once a beacon of joy and promise, now symbolized an unsolvable tragedy, etched deeply into the heart of the community, but gradually fading from public consciousness. Yet even as national interest waned, families continued to suffer quietly, each sunrise bringing renewed grief, each unanswered phone call a painful reminder of their inexplicable loss. The bus, once carrying the proud dreams of Sterling's brightest young voices, now remained a haunting monument to an unspeakable event that defied explanation, buried beneath years of silence and sorrow. As the weeks turned into months, and then years, the quiet town of Sterling slowly attempted to move on from the unimaginable tragedy. Yet behind closed doors, families continued their silent battles, hearts weighed down by unresolved grief. Among them was Helen Thompson, mother of Ella, the vibrant choir leader whose contagious optimism had once lifted the spirits of everyone around her. Helen, unlike many others who gradually found ways to cope, could not accept the mystery that robbed her of her only daughter. She clung desperately to every memory, every photograph, every fragment of Ella's life left behind in her untouched bedroom, unable to shake the agonizing sense that something crucial had been missed. Year after year, Helen spent countless sleepless nights poring over old reports, meticulously retracing every step of the investigation, driven by an unyielding conviction that answers remained out there waiting to be discovered. Friends and neighbors urged her gently to let go to find peace, but Helen persisted in her private search. The pain of uncertainty was too profound, the possibility of Ella being alive, however faint, too powerful to abandon. Meanwhile, others handled their grief differently. Julie Sinclair, mother of talented soprano, Samantha, repeated like a mantra she was supposed to come home. A fragile hope constantly shattered anew. Bill Porter, father of Ethan Porter, obsessively tracked down every rumored sighting, only to have his heart repeatedly crushed by dead ends. Over time, some parents moved away, seeking relief from memories too painful to bear. Sterling itself gradually quieted as media attention dwindled, the missing choir members becoming little more than whispered reminders of an unresolved nightmare slowly drifting into the town's shadowed past. Yet for Helen Thompson, the case never faded. Her daily rituals of remembrance and tireless pursuit of truth persisted, a quiet, unwavering refusal to let the world forget. On each anniversary of the disappearance, Helen visited the forest where the bus was discovered, retracing steps she had memorized long ago, relentlessly hopeful for anything to surface. The townspeople watched with quiet pity, believing her efforts futile. Yet Helen knew, differently convinced, the day would come when her determination would uncover what everyone else had overlooked. 2 decades after the choir students mysteriously vanished, the dense forests outside Stirling remained shrouded in an eerie stillness. It was here, on an isolated trail rarely frequented by outsiders, that Tom Marshall, an avid hiker familiar with the region, sensed something disturbingly off. The forest, normally vibrant with life, felt oddly oppressive, as though an unnatural silence had settled. With every step, unease crept further into Tom's bones, an unshakable sensation of being watched tightening his chest. His attention snapped downward abruptly when his foot caught against something buried partially in the dirt. Heart quickening, he knelt and carefully brushed aside layers of soil, revealing fabric worn and faded from years of exposure. His breath froze in shock at the unmistakable logo staring back at him: Stirling High School Choir. Tom recognized it instantly, memories of news headlines flooding his mind. This tattered t-shirt was a relic from the choir that had vanished, sparking a decades-long mystery that had gripped the nation before fading quietly into oblivion. A chill rippled down his spine. How had it ended up here, so deep within a wilderness previously scoured by authorities? His curiosity rapidly shifted to dread, as a distant rhythmic humming began to fill the silence around him, unlike any natural sound he had heard before. Anxiously glancing around, Tom saw nothing but encroaching shadows. Still, the unsettling noise seemed to beckon him, compelling him forward despite his instincts screaming to run. Heart pounding, he reluctantly followed the haunting sound deeper into the woods, driven by a force beyond rational understanding. The humming intensified, guiding him until the sensation of invisible eyes upon him became overwhelming. Tom's trembling fingers reached urgently for his phone, dialing emergency services as panic threatened to overtake him. Voice shaking, he explained his discovery, the strange noise, and his location. The operator's calm reassurance did little to ease his mounting fear, promising help was swiftly approaching. Moments stretched painfully long as the sound persisted, now disturbingly close, an eerie presence enveloping him. Finally, distant voices broke the tension. The FBI had arrived. Tom felt relief flood through him as agents combed methodically through the dense brush. Soon they uncovered another artifact, a weathered jacket bearing the choir's logo, unmistakably authentic. Confirming Tom's discovery was no isolated incident. His pulse quickened again, realizing he had inadvertently stumbled upon a clue missed for 2 decades, the first solid link back to the student's baffling disappearance. The agents regarded him grimly. This was no longer merely a missing persons case. It was something darker, far more sinister than anyone had ever imagined. Thank you for choosing my video among thousands of videos out there to watch. Helping me with a subscription of yours is very small but very big and too valuable. Following the chilling discovery of the Stirling Choir's clothing deep within the forest, investigators swiftly intensified their search. Every new find seemed to heighten the oppressive unease permeating the area, as if the forest itself was hiding secrets it didn't want revealed. FBI teams, guided by the haunting descriptions of hiker Tom Marshall, pressed deeper into the dense wilderness, guided only by the eerie humming that had first drawn Tom toward the hidden garments. The rhythmic, almost hypnotic hum echoed through the trees, becoming louder and more unsettling as agents pushed forward. Flashlights illuminated twisted paths rarely traveled, revealing more scattered belongings, tattered choir uniforms, faded shoes, and fragments of personal items, each discovery more disturbing than the last. The deeper they advanced, the stronger the sinister aura became, whispering of a hidden past buried beneath 2 decades of silence. Agents exchanged uneasy glances, instinctively sensing they were uncovering something beyond ordinary understanding. These weren't merely abandoned clothes. They were deliberate remnants of a lost youth, haunting symbols of innocence violently ripped away. Each discovery forced authorities to confront a deeply unsettling reality. The students had been brought here, intentionally hidden away and forgotten by the outside world. A profound dread settled over the investigators as the humming persisted, a constant reminder of something elusive, unnatural, and terrifyingly close. With every step forward, the forest's shadows thickened, revealing glimpses of a hidden settlement far off the known trails, a place previously untouched by search efforts. It was here, concealed by decades of secrecy, that the agents finally understood the depth of the nightmare they'd entered, facing the disturbing certainty that the choir's disappearance was not merely an accident, but a meticulously orchestrated act of darkness. Breaking through the dense cover of trees, investigators stumbled into a clearing, so isolated it felt like stepping into another world entirely. Before them stood dilapidated buildings cloaked in ivy and decay, an abandoned compound hidden purposefully from civilization's view. Yet, as agents cautiously moved forward, they quickly realized the place was far from abandoned. Figures emerged from the shadows, their expressions hollow, their gazes blank and devoid of humanity. The compound was occupied, inhabited by people who seemed almost ghostly, stripped of their identities through years of isolation. The unsettling realization swiftly crystallized into a horrifying truth. This was not simply an isolated settlement, it was the domain of a secretive religious cult operating clandestinely for decades, hidden from the world. The FBI soon discovered that among the residents were the choir members who had vanished 20 years earlier, now adults transformed beyond recognition. Once vibrant teenagers, these survivors had become living ghosts, their spirits crushed under the brutal control of their captors. Agents, deeply shaken, witnessed firsthand the devastating toll of psychological torment, vacant eyes, malnourished bodies, and expressions drained of hope. The cult, it soon became clear, had not merely kidnapped the students, it had systematically indoctrinated them, erasing memories and imposing a twisted ideology that severed their connections to the outside world. Evidence of forced rituals, relentless propaganda, and severe punishments surfaced, painting a grim picture of life within the compound. Each victim was methodically stripped of individuality, molded into obedient followers who believed salvation lay solely in absolute submission. The agents, overwhelmed by sorrow and outrage, carefully documented the horrors, aware that their discovery had exposed something far darker and more entrenched than they had ever anticipated. The cult had thrived unseen, sustained by secrecy, fear, and manipulation. As authorities secured the area, the magnitude of what the choir members had endured slowly came into focus: lives destroyed, dreams extinguished, and innocence irretrievably stolen. The tragic reunion between survivors and the investigators was a moment thick with grief, confusion, and heartbreak. The FBI, now facing the daunting challenge of dismantling an organized operation whose reach remained uncertain, prepared for the inevitable reckoning. They had discovered not only the missing choir members, but an elaborate network of psychological torment and human exploitation, a hidden nightmare that Sterling, and indeed the nation, had yet to fully grasp. As the FBI began rescuing the survivors, the grim truth of their 20-year captivity became painfully clear. The vibrant, hopeful teenagers who had once boarded a bus with dreams of a bright future were now scarcely recognizable, physically frail, emotionally shattered, and psychologically altered beyond comprehension. Authorities moved with gentle urgency, guiding survivors carefully out of the dilapidated compound. Each rescued individual bore the harrowing marks of prolonged isolation and systematic abuse. Their eyes, vacant and detached, revealed the depths of trauma endured under the cult's relentless control. Among them was Ella Thompson, once Sterling High's spirited choir leader, now standing as a mere shadow of the optimistic young girl who had inspired others. Helen Thompson, summoned immediately to identify her daughter, experienced a moment she had long prayed for, but had never imagined like this. Heartbreakingly, Ella showed no recognition of her mother, her memories buried beneath years of manipulative indoctrination. Helen wept openly, torn between relief and overwhelming despair. Other survivors exhibited brief, fragmented glimpses of their former lives. Carla Matthews, the shy, gifted singer, now stared blankly at familiar faces, confusion flickering occasionally through the numbness. Brian B.J. Jenkins, once the class clown whose laughter had filled rooms, now gazed silently ahead, his former charisma extinguished. Some survivors managed fleeting recollections, snippets of childhood laughter or familiar songs, but these memories brought more pain than comfort, reminders of stolen lives they scarcely recognized as their own. Investigators quickly grasped the enormity of their task, not merely rescuing the survivors physically, but attempting to salvage their fractured identities. Teams of mental health experts arrived swiftly, working tirelessly to restore trust, safety, and eventually memory. Yet every revelation of their former selves came at a painful cost: reopening psychological wounds inflicted by years of brutal indoctrination. Slowly, authorities pieced together a chilling narrative from survivors' disjointed accounts, decades of forced rituals, relentless psychological manipulation, and relentless punishment. These revelations illuminated the horrific experiences hidden behind the compound's walls, compelling authorities to recognize the daunting road of recovery ahead. The survivors had been freed physically, yet their liberation from the cult's psychological grip had only just begun, a daunting, uncertain journey toward reclaiming identities lost decades ago. The investigation into the sinister cult rapidly intensified, unraveling a horrifyingly complex web of deception and manipulation masterminded by its enigmatic leader, Victor Hayes. Far from being a random tragedy, the abduction of the Sterling High School choir had been meticulously planned, exploiting the students' youth, vulnerability, and potential for psychological coercion. Investigators uncovered chilling evidence that Hayes had deliberately selected these teenagers, believing their innocence and aspirations could be twisted effectively into unwavering loyalty. His ultimate goal was to cultivate obedient followers, molding them through isolation, fear, and relentless psychological tactics into tools for his broader ambitions. Delving deeper, authorities discovered that the cult had operated with disturbing sophistication, quietly supported and financed through clandestine networks extending far beyond the isolated compound. Connections emerged linking Hayes to influential figures within political circles, individuals who had provided resources and protection, enabling the cult's decades-long operation without detection. Victims' accounts exposed Hayes as a master manipulator whose charisma and calculated cruelty had methodically broken their spirits. From the moment of capture, students had been systematically drugged, isolated and brainwashed, told repeatedly their families had abandoned them, and that only Hayes and the cult provided genuine love and purpose. They were indoctrinated relentlessly, stripped of all personal memories and desires, and taught their sole value lay in absolute devotion and obedience. Over time, the survivors' identities were erased and rewritten, replaced with unwavering dedication to Hayes' twisted vision. The FBI's growing understanding of Hayes' extensive plans painted an even darker picture. Documentation revealed ambitions far beyond mere indoctrination. The choir's disappearance had merely been a starting point, a dramatic act intended to test his methods before expanding his cult's reach into broader society. The compound itself served as a model for a more sinister large-scale manipulation scheme, aiming to exploit vulnerable individuals on a national level. Agents recognized the urgency in dismantling not only the physical structures, but also Hayes' insidious ideology. As the depth and horror of Hayes' intentions emerged, investigators became grimly aware that rescuing survivors was merely the first step in confronting a threat whose impact extended far beyond the hidden compound in the woods. Authorities moved decisively to arrest Victor Hayes, knowing his apprehension marked only the beginning of untangling the extensive psychological and emotional damage inflicted on his victims. The choir's disappearance was no longer merely a tragedy. It was a deliberate atrocity rooted in manipulation and exploitation, the chilling revelation of a dark agenda far greater than anyone had imagined. The liberation of the choir survivors marked the beginning of a long and arduous path toward healing, a journey far more complex and challenging than anyone initially anticipated. Once back in Sterling, families faced the bittersweet reality of reunions they had dreamt about for 2 decades, only to confront loved ones drastically changed. The young men and women who had boarded that bus full of dreams were now adults, carrying profound scars, their minds deeply fractured by years of calculated psychological manipulation. Professional teams of therapists, trauma counselors, and medical experts assembled swiftly, forming a comprehensive plan to help survivors reclaim their lost identities. But recovery was painstakingly slow. Each breakthrough was accompanied by painful flashbacks, emotional upheaval, and overwhelming confusion. Ella Thompson, once a leader known for her relentless optimism, struggled intensely, often failing to recognize her mother, Helen. In rare moments, glimpses of her former self surfaced, a fleeting smile, fragments of remembered songs, but they quickly dissolved, replaced by confusion and fear. Helen, devastated yet resolute, stood unwaveringly beside Ella, determined never to lose her daughter again. Similarly, Carla Matthews navigated her recovery quietly, slowly, reclaiming her voice not through song, but through hesitant words and cautious trust-building. Brian B.J. Jenkins, whose laughter had once buoyed classmates, battled profound despair, haunted by vague yet terrifying memories. Each survivor faced a personal, daunting journey toward recovery, their progress measured in fragile, incremental steps. Gradually, through dedicated care and immense patience, survivors began reconnecting fragments of their former lives, relearning names, rediscovering forgotten memories, and attempting to rebuild shattered self-esteem. Families found solace in small victories, brief recognition, moments of laughter, or simply the warmth of familiar embraces. The Sterling community rallied together, offering unwavering support, understanding that the survivors' healing required time, compassion, and unyielding hope. Though the emotional wounds ran deep, each small step forward was a testament to human resilience, gradually illuminating a path out of darkness and back toward the possibility of a reclaimed life. With survivors safe and under careful care, the FBI turned its attention decisively toward dismantling the sinister network that had sustained Victor Hayes and his cult. Hayes was swiftly arrested, charged with kidnapping, human trafficking, child exploitation, and numerous other serious offenses, marking a major breakthrough in resolving the decades-long mystery. His apprehension triggered further revelations as investigators uncovered connections to influential political figures who had covertly facilitated and shielded the cult's operations. These shocking revelations rippled through media and public consciousness, reigniting national outrage and prompting widespread demands for justice. In court, survivors' testimonies provided heart-wrenching insight into their unimaginable experiences, vividly illustrating the catastrophic emotional and psychological damage inflicted by Hayes. Each account underscored the profound evil of his manipulative schemes, solidifying public condemnation and ensuring his conviction. Despite the justice finally served, the truth offered limited solace to families whose lives had been irrevocably altered. Though reunited, their loved ones bore permanent scars, living reminders of an ordeal few could truly comprehend. Yet, amid ongoing grief and challenges, there emerged a quiet strength and resilience in Sterling. Families and survivors, bound together through unimaginable hardship, gradually found ways to heal collectively. Memorials honored those affected, transforming sorrow into community solidarity. For Helen Thompson, seeing Ella slowly reconnect fragments of her lost identity, small but powerful moments of recognition. laughter, and love represented the ultimate triumph over darkness. Although the choir students would never regain the innocence stolen from them, the revelation of truth and accountability provided a crucial foundation for rebuilding lives interrupted decades before. As Sterling moved forward, forever changed, but resolute, the survivor's painful journey became a testament to courage, resilience, and the enduring human spirit, one step at a time, reclaiming lives once believed irretrievably lost. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Your support truly means the world to me. If this video brought you value or resonated with you in any way, feel free to leave a little comment or hit subscribe so we can keep sharing more moments together. See you in the next one.